Molson Indy Vancouver has been the site of some great racers and great racing. 3 drivers have scored multiple victories on this track. This weekend, Paul Tracy is hoping to join those men. Qualifying has always been a battle, and starting in the front row is never more important than on a street course like here in Vancouver. 4 races this year have seen the pole sitter go pole to victory. Today's qualifying is crucial. The Karts Championship battle is narrowing down to 2 teams. Players Forsythe and Newman Haas, and a great rivalry is developing. Gasoline thrown on the fire yesterday. Tempers are hot, and both sides will want to blow it open today in qualifying. The Molson Indy Vancouver, presented by the Can West Global Television Network. It's been a beautiful weekend with the best on the way, and at Falls Creek it is anchors away as Paul Tracy and the boys are here to play.
Well, key in on the usual suspects, Paul Tracy looking for back-to-back wins in Canada. Fellow Canadians Patrick Carpentier and Alex Tagliani have both had moments of glory here in Vancouver, but have never sipped champagne. Then there's Mr. Consistency, Bruno Junqueira. He is hot on Paul Tracy's tail for the driver's title despite not having tasted victory. And of course, rookie Sebastian Bourdais, who's been so impressive in his first season for Newman Haas Racing. After 10 races this season, Paul Tracy with a 15-point lead over Bruno Junqueira, Canadian Patrick Carpentier and his fellow teammate sitting in 4th. This is an exciting weekend in Vancouver, but there's already a big buzz in the city of the 2002 Olympics.
Hello everyone, Jim Taddy along with Laurie Belanger. Welcome to our Molson Indy Vancouver qualifying show as we set the stage for tomorrow's race. As we speak to you at the CASCAR field, roaring in the background, and let's just put it this way, there's plenty of action out there. There was plenty of action earlier today. 2 weekends ago in Toronto, Paul Tracy wrote the entire story. Today, Laurie, he had the pad and paper out again.
He did, but not all of what Paul Tracy had to say was fit to print. But you know what, that is why people love Paul Tracy, or they love to hate Paul Tracy, because he keeps things exciting, just like he did in qualifying this afternoon.
He was a busy fellow out there today and yesterday. Perfect weather, and how was that a factor? Well, listen up. It was a perfect day, so good the veterans gambled and stayed in the pits while the young guns hit the track. Would it pay off? Well, about a third of the way through, 2001 winner Roberto Moreno grabbed the provisional pole, and that looked good until this. A red flag. Diego Montero wipes out. That wastes precious time. So with 8.5 minutes left, and he still had not tested the track. Mass exit his time wasting, and guess what? Paul Tracy had the best time and the provisional pole. And guess what? On the last lap, he was accused of blocking Tagliani and Bruno Junqueira. The protest lasted into the night, and guess what? Junqueira was awarded provisional pole, and it was taken away from Paul Tracy. Now let's go down to Todd Lewis.
Paul, let's make it short and sweet. Did you get screwed by the decision yesterday?
Well, I feel I did. I mean, we don't have any data to show that I impeded Tagliani's lap. To the contrary, he turned his fastest lap on the checkered flag lap. He did his fastest splits of the whole weekend on that lap. So the thing that bothers me the most is just the inconsistency that CART has displayed. Not only, you know, just throughout the last 6 to 8 years. The series has been very inconsistent with the rules making, and you know, in my heart, I feel the same way probably that, you know, that Tony George felt and Marlboro Team Penske felt when they left, and Honda and Toyota and Michael Andretti. It's just, CART is in a bad situation right now.
Is there a way to get rid of this situation, to get you pointed in the right direction?
Hey, I'm pointed in the right direction. I qualified on the pole yesterday, and that's what we plan to do today.
Thanks, Paul. More from the other driver's perspective now, and over to Don Martin.
Thanks, Todd. Alec, Paul's case yesterday was that he was merely one of the cars on the course, and I'm guessing maybe this isn't the first time it's happened, so you had to do something.
With Tracy?
In filing the protest.
No, it's not the first time, but I guess the difficult thing for a driver is, like, when you're on pole, is letting your competition having the ability to have a fair shot and beating your time. So that means move over. The situation yesterday is that he knew it was a checker flag. He was 4 seconds off the pace on his first segment, and he just kept on going and stayed in front of me. So it was bad, and it happened earlier with Bruno. So, you know, it's not the first time.
All right, Alec, thanks very much. Hard feelings, will it translate into hard racing? Send it back to Laurie Belanger.
Alex Tagliani not the only driver upset with Paul this weekend, but he's no stranger to that. He's also no stranger to having a difference of opinion with Cart CEO Chris Pook, who was left once again to deal with allegations made by Paul Tracy.
Well, let's talk to the top man in Cart. Chris Pook. Paul Tracy talked about the inconsistency of the ruling he felt against him from yesterday. You obviously don't agree.
Well, no, we're not going to agree, and I think you'll find there's probably 18 other drivers in the pit lane won't agree either. I mean, you know, it's, I mean, I talked to Paul last night. He's upset about it, but, you know, he's fast and he knows the rules. And there was a major warning put out at Portland to the drivers about this sort of thing. And he doesn't need to get in the way. He's plenty fast enough to set pole time and pull over and let the other guys have a go at it. And I doubt if they'll get to him. But, you know, this afternoon is his chance to prove himself again, and hopefully he'll be back on pole. But we are going to administer the rules of the series with consistency and with great efficiency.
Thank you, Chris Pook, and good luck on the rest of the great weekend.
So a little frustration from both sides this week, and a big difference from 2 weeks ago when Paul Tracy dominated in Toronto, starting from the pole and winning in dominant fashion after leading all 112 laps for victory at the halfway mark of the season, giving him momentum into the stretch after winning a race he called his Indy 500.
I think it was an important race to reach the halfway point and dominate a race the way we did. It puts everybody else on a defensive, and it allows us to be still on the offensive.
He's on a street course again this weekend where Paul has had all of his success this season, though partly because there are fewer ovals on the schedule this year and a couple of mechanical problems, but regardless, Paul Tracy has been impressive.
Now let's set the stage for qualifying. Chris McClure will call all the action on the CanWest Global Television Network this weekend. John Beek is normally with him, could not make the trip, but Memo Gidley did, and you're going to enjoy his work. He is absolutely no stranger to the track. Started driving in '92, very familiar with this Molson Indy track. Last drove this circuit in 2001 with the Target Chip Ganassi team. He competed in 13 of 20 races that year, 3 podiums, 2 seconds and a third. In 2000, he had 3 Champ Car starts for the Players Foresight team. Now he is standing by with Chris McClure. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Jim. You know, we saw a moment ago, Paul Tracy appears to have his game face on for the second round of qualifying. But the fact is, he's been through an enormous range of emotions over the last 24 hours. Last night, after the decision, he was just furious. By this morning, he seemed to have composed himself a little bit. But a lot of folks up and down pit road were wondering if Cart's decision was getting into his head just a little bit. And then in the practice, he had a difficulty that raised a few eyebrows as he went into turn number 7 at the south end of the course, got a little bit offline and wound up sliding into the tires. And everybody said, is his psyche under attack? Is his momentum for the championship about to be interrupted? And I have to ask you, Memo, is that a danger this afternoon in the qualifying?
I don't think so. I mean, what we've seen from Paul Tracy, especially in the last race, was just a dominant performance out there. And it's not just him, it's his team. It's everybody associated with team players. And so he comes out here this weekend in practice. We've seen him sit out a lot of the session. He's really confident going into it. He knows where his car's at. He knows the team's going to be there. And I really don't think he's going to be affected. When you're in a groove like that, it's hard to get, you know, misaligned there.
Well, he keeps saying we're going to show him on the track. We'll know in a little while. Meantime, on the track, lots of curbs to deal with. We sent Memo out to deal with that question.
Let's talk about curb jumping. One of the most important sections on the Molson Indy racetrack are turns 11 and 12. As you can see, this section of the road is littered with curbs. In practice, drivers will cut this course as much as 3 feet to make the distance as short as possible for a quick lap time. Driving curbs is not easy. I like to think of curbs as a jump. You have a takeoff ramp and you have a landing ramp. The best way to hit a jump is with enough speed so that you clear the center section and land on the downward side of the landing ramp. A car is no different. You have to hit this first section fast enough so that you clear the center section and absorb the energy on the downward side of this curb. Hitting a curb correctly will save a driver a tenth or two per lap, which can be up to 5 positions in qualifying.
No shortage of controversy heading into qualifying. We'll have the highlights from the Molson Indy Vancouver when we return on the CanWest Global.
The Molson Indy Toronto on Global is brought to you in part by your Dodge retailers. Dodge Trucks, the most powerful line of trucks on the road. Dodge, grab life by the horns.
The timing and scoring system at a Champ Car race provides a wealth of information. Now here at the start-finish line, we have an antenna loop that is buried in this line and in this line. That tells us when the car has started or finished a lap. Over here we have the old timing light system. These days, that's just a redundancy, a backup system. Now, there's another loop like this down there, about 120 feet. When the car passes both of them, the computer can tell us how fast it was going in this section. And there's more. Here at the Quebec Street straightaway, we have the fastest part of the course and another set of antenna loops. One right here in these two lines and another one 120 feet down. The cars come through here and the computer again tells us how fast they went here, usually about 180 miles an hour. This is the second of 3 waypoints on the track. That leads us to our next subject. The antenna system gives us one more tool that's pretty interesting. It's been in use for about a year. Now, on this screen, we have an outline of the Vancouver track. On that are the waypoints, the start-finish line here, the straightaway we just visited over there, and one more near the Science Center in the chicane coming back toward the pit. Now, every one of these dots represents a car that is out on the course by car number, so we can keep track of where they are. When they get to a waypoint, their position is updated. The software interpolates where they ought to be until the next update over here, and on they go. Now, the next logical step is GPS positioning, and that may be in place next year.
We'll pick up the qualifying in a moment. A reminder, our pre-race coverage tomorrow starts at 12:30 Pacific time. And, of course, the race gets underway at 1:06 Pacific time. And a month from now, we're going to be in Montreal, setting the stage with qualifying coverage and live race coverage as well across the CanWest Global Television Network. Now to the qualifying. 27 minutes left in a 40-minute session. Paul Tracy, yes, that's right, has regained P1. Let's join Chris and Memo.
Roberto Moreno, a look there with 27 minutes left in this qualifying session, has just caught everybody's attention with a 61.172 lap. He has moved to the top and shuffled Tracy back to 3rd place. Now, let's keep an eye on him. Is he still on a flyer? Roberto Moreno has just put down a great lap to move to the top of the board in that number 4 machine, the Herdes mount. He has won on this course in the past, a couple of years ago. He likes this circuit, and he just showed us a little bit of why a moment ago. He's in the middle of another lap, coming up to the end of that. We'll follow him home if we can and see if he's able to improve. But right now, it is Roberto Moreno, surprisingly to many, on the pole for the moment. At the chicane. Here he comes out of the chicane. That was Tagliani moving through. Moreno's on it, using the curbing onto the straightaway. He's got plenty of room. Does he do it again? No, a little bit slower. That was a slow down lap. Now we'll look at his splits this time through. Paul Tracy, who was first when he went into the pits, has now slipped to 3rd. He has another set of tires and 7 more laps available before his qualifying will be done, and plenty of time to use those tires and get those laps in.
That's an impressive lap for Roberto. I mean, they've been kind of up and down all weekend a little bit, and I talked with him, and he said, you know, just gelling with everybody on the team and getting the communication lines open and understanding everybody. But that's a great lap, and even though it's early in the session, that's going to stand up probably even if he doesn't improve it and stay in the top 5 or 6. So that's very impressive.
Half a dozen more corners for Roberto Moreno before he comes back to the front. Looks like he slowed way down, so in his splits would tell us that this wasn't a particularly effective lap. Here's Ariel Servia. We had a report from the course that perhaps he had brushed the wall. He is definitely off full song and maybe headed for the pits. So might Moreno, who's only run 5 laps on this set of tires, so he may elect to stay out. Servia did not come in, but Moreno did. So here comes Ariel Servia, jumping the throttle to see if he can get into another lap. His best lap today is 62.120. Yesterday he went 62.103. So his Friday time is the one that has him in the 8th position on the grid at the moment.
You could see Moreno that lap after his quickest starting to slide the car around, and although he was trying hard, it was going to damage the tires staying out there. So he just kind of brought it back in, make a change, and then think about going out again.
Bruno Junqueira, you see him there, 63.9. That last trip around, he's been out for 2 laps now, and he's out to try and answer Moreno and Tracy and everybody else. Meantime, let's go back to the pits and Todd Lewis.
In Patrick Carpentier's pit, you can see just a little scuff on the outside of the right rear tire. Not a very hard brush with the wall, but enough to do a little bit of damage to the back of the car. Patrick Carpentier will be in the pits for a little while until that damage is replaced.
The car stepped out just off turn 11 onto the front straightaway, and at least you're going in the right direction there. Just a brush with the wall. It can upset the lap, but not necessarily ruin it if you don't get too high.
Yeah, he definitely brushed it, but pretty hard. But what happened is he just hit the first curb and understeered, and then was waiting on the car to turn and waiting, and finally it turned. That's when the rear end stepped out and brushed the wall. And although it's a brush, you know, when we're talking about setup on these cars, they measure in millimeters or thousands. So a little bit of a tap here can really affect the handling of. I think he had a good car, so it could affect his car out there. We'll just have to wait and see.
Bruno Junqueira is still on Friday's time, and he goes 63.045 that time around. We'll track him while we check in with Don Martin.
In the pits with Roberto Moreno's Keith Wiggins, and Keith, Roberto climbing out of the car right now. Does that mean he's done for this session, or are you going to get faster?
No, we're going to do another run, and hopefully we'll go faster. You can never guarantee that, but we always do. We plan to do 2 runs. So.
Where did you find the extra speed?
Well, I think it's been quick all weekend, and in the last 3 or 4 races, I mean, it's a steady progression, and the car's been developing. And you know, yesterday, unfortunately, we had a problem with the engine, which we only did 3 laps yesterday. So we were, you know, pretty confident that he could do a job, but you still have to do it. So at the moment, it's looking okay.
All right, thanks. And Chris, that's the word from the Moreno pits.
Meantime, we're wondering, can Moreno's time hold up against Bruno Junqueira? It appears that this lap is plenty quick, but probably not quick enough by some of the segment speeds we've been getting. He's at the line now, and we'll get confirmation of that. Well, he goes to 62.2, so he improves his time from today, but doesn't even equal his own from yesterday, nor Moreno. So he stays on the front row, but still in 2nd place.
P1 looking good for PT. Will Bruno Junqueira have more to say? You're watching Molson Vancouver qualifying on the Can West Global Television Network.
The Molson Indy Vancouver on Global is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. Why not seize the day?
The province of British Columbia has many great reasons to be proud. At the top of that list includes the awarding of the 2010 Winter Olympic Games to the cities of Vancouver and Whistler. Much of the action in Vancouver will take place in and around the Molson Indy track, including the opening and medal ceremonies from BC Place Stadium, ice hockey at GM Place, as well as the Vancouver Olympic Village that will house over 2,000 athletes proposed to be built on the track site. Whistler will host Nordic, Alpine, and sliding events. Bruno Junqueira, Mr. Consistency on this kart circuit this season. In 10 starts this season, only in Portland did he finish out of the top 10. So he hasn't won this year, but he is getting the job done and could still win the championship. Because if you consider a guy like Al Unser Jr., he won the title in 1983 with 1 win and no poles. Junqueira, meanwhile, hasn't had a lot of success in Vancouver. In his first race, he was hit by Paul Tracy, went to the back of the pack and finished 12th. Last year, he had his highest finish in Vancouver, finishing 9th. We'll return to qualifying now with 18 minutes to go in the 40-minute session. Roberto Moreno still on top. Can he hold on? For more, let's rejoin Chris and Mamo.
On board we go with Paul Tracy at the southern end of the course. 3 rights and a left down here to get through this complex of corners. He is not on pole pace on this particular lap, but he's not far off. So it bears watching these last few corners coming back to the front. We'll keep an eye on Paul Tracy. He's at the chicane now, and now leaving the Science Center. 2 more corners, and he'll be on the straight. We'll get a timing and scoring report. There it is, a 65-second lap. So he had a couple of good segments in there as he warmed up the systems. Now Paul Tracy is jumping into his 3rd lap around since he came out. Memo, we're not quite sure if he's on fresh tires yet. He may be trying something out that they've adjusted prior to putting on his last set of fresh rubber. Yeah, I think he's going to be saving those tires to the end for sure. And, you know, he's not as dominant right now as he was yesterday. And to be quite honest with you, I think Roberto Moreno with the Herdez car surprised a lot of people. And they figured, hey, we better get that car tuned in a little bit better and dialed in a little bit better, because who knows, there might be some guys we haven't considered that have been working away and not sitting out sessions that are pretty fast. Well, Paul is off pole pace again, but not too far off, which may, I guess, sort of answer the question. If they've made an adjustment, it may have been in the right direction if he's running close to pole on old tires. That's exactly the kind of feedback I suspect he would like to have. Yeah, for sure. You know, I think those guys, when they put new tires on, they go faster. A lot of guys are actually struggling when they put new tires on, but in the case of team players, boy, they just go faster when they stick the new rubber on. 63.2 that trip around, still in 3rd place based on a 61.3 from earlier. That was what Paul Tracy was able to put down. That makes Paul Tracy 2nd quick today. But it puts him in 3rd because Bruno Junqueira is guaranteed a front row spot based on the overnight pole that was handed back to him when Tracy was removed from that position for the blocking incident in Friday qualifying. Turn 7. Short burst here. Arc the whole corner, really. Turn 8, carry the same gear most of the way through here. Yeah, turn 8 is, this corner here is an off-camber type corner, and it makes the back end very loose and want to step out through there. You're also trying to brake and turn at the same time, so it's a tough complex. Back to the front comes Paul one more time. Charging the line, and that was quick enough. 61.049. Tracy to the top. 4 laps around, 5 laps around, and he finally found the combination he wanted, and he went 61.049, moving Moreno back to 3rd. So they flip-flop positions. Junqueira remains in 2nd based on today's time at 61.6. Paul is now 6/10 clear of Junqueira, but not that much clear of Moreno and a couple of others. Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I mean, that just means that those guys are right there, you know, and they'll stick those new set of tires on, I think, at the end of the session and go quite a bit quicker. So that's a good improvement on used tires. Paul Tracy in the 2nd segment of that lap was quicker than before. The 3rd segment of this lap now, he is better by almost 2/10 than the lap that put him on pole just a moment ago. Here he comes to conclude the lap. Has he improved? Has he gone under 61? Here's the timing and scoring report. Yes, he has. 60.926 seconds. So 2 straight mammoth flyers for Paul Tracy, and he may have expended the use of those tires. He's got one more flyer if he wants it. That was lap 13, but he moved the target for everybody with 2 brilliant laps in a row and went under 61 seconds. The only one in the field that has done that. I really think it's going to be tough for Bruno. You know, they have to make some serious changes, I think, to his car to make it a little bit quicker. I know the first run out, he was trying pretty hard and really couldn't get a good time. Nothing to really compete with Paul right now. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys go once they sit out for the 2nd time on their new tires. The 1-lap record on this course configuration here in Vancouver is 60.339 since set a year ago by Cristiano D'Amata. Tracy is at 60.9, so he's a ways off that. I'm not sure he cares right now, but he does want that championship point, and he does want the pole position. Patrick Carpentier, meantime, out there circulating. He's just a moment ago down to 63. He is in the 6th grid spot at 61.651. That's his best time today, and he's coming back toward the front as well. Tracy did go into the pits. He's used up his time and laps. 14 laps. He will not go back out. That will be 13 minutes. minutes almost of waiting for Paul Tracy at 60.926. He's established a pretty good target for the rest of them. Meantime, Carpentier trying to build up to something here as he works the speed section of the course, coming up to the hard braking zone here at just about 170 miles an hour or so right now.
We've got Moreno right now just thinking about heading onto the racetrack, and he's one of the guys in back of Tracy that has a substantial number of laps that are left, so he may get a clear track. He's got new tires on, and he still may be in contention.
Let's check in at the pits with Todd Lewis.
With Neil Mickelwright in the players pit, well, Paul put down the quick one. Now you have to wait. Is it quick enough?
Well, we hope that it's quick enough. I think obviously due to some of the controversy recently, we went out at a point where we couldn't possibly be accused of slowing anybody down. The downside of that is that generally speaking, the track tends to get a little bit better as you go through the session. So it's a good lap. We're happy with it. We'll take it. And hopefully that'll be enough to keep us up front.
Neil Mickelwright and the team waiting with crossed fingers.
Paul Tracy and team players walking the walk, but there's still a lot of time left, and the track conditions are perfect here in Vancouver. Qualifying continues in a moment.
Closed captioning of the Molson Indy Vancouver on Global is brought to you in part by Shell Optimax Gold. Optimum responsiveness just when you need it.
Paul Tracy just a couple of corners away from the Molson Indy Vancouver victory here in 2000. Off
On
of
your
turn
feet,
12.
Vancouver.
On your feet, Vancouver. Checkered flag. Paul Tracy wins the 2000 Molson Indy Vancouver.
From one Canadian story to another, big moment for Alex Tagliani, his 60th start in this circuit tomorrow, but still looking for his first victory. In 2001, he had the pole here. Gearbox failure in lap 68 ruined what was going to be a great weekend, and he had a great weekend ruined a couple of weekends ago in Toronto. He was behind Paul Tracy in second, pushed aside by Bruno Junqueira going into turn 3 on lap 28. So he has plenty to shoot for. No longer with the Players Foresight team, now with Rocket Sports. And that is an interesting story because the team is headed up by Paul Gentilozzi, a former Trans Am champion, and he's gone from driver to owner. And our production staff put together this report.
I've loved cars and I've loved racing since, well, 1965. And I've raced something since 1966 at one level or another. So it's been my life. You know, I've had other careers and done other things, but, and I've always, people who aren't around motorsports, when they ask me what I do, you know, I'm a developer or a builder or this or that or the other. But now I'm really not. I'm in motorsports. I mean, my brother's running the real estate company, doing a good job. I'm doing what I love to do. When we made the commitment to go open wheel racing with Johnson Controls, it was because they had matured as much as they could in the Trans Am arena, and there was no place to keep them. I mean, it's a wonderful $20 billion Fortune 100 company, and they had a profile to keep, and we just couldn't keep it where we were. So the decision to go to Champ Car or to IRL ended up to be a business decision. We're in markets like Toronto, where Johnson Controls does a lot of business. We're in Long Beach, where we do a lot of business. It wasn't that I had a special affection or affliction to either one of the kinds of racing. I've grown up around kart, and it's road racing, and that's what I know how to do. I had to understand what I don't know, and there's a lot about strategy in these multi-pit stops race that I didn't know, and Phil and the guys have taught me that. I'm still learning, and I had to learn how to communicate instead of from the racetrack to pit wall, the other way, and what the driver needed to hear, what was good to say, what was bad to say, and we're learning all those things, and all the guys are helping me learn that, and Alex and I are developing this communication. Well, I think there's an apprehension. I mean, he came from players, a well-established, certainly well-funded team that had a kind of a nationalism to it. He was a Canadian. It was a Canadian sponsor. And they made his lifestyle part of their deal. Mine was different. So I think, would he have wanted to stay at Players or gone to Newman Haas? He'd have been crazy not to. In the end, now that it's done and we're going this direction, I think it's a real positive for both of us. Next year, maybe even this year, there are some lifestyle things that are going to happen at kart races that we're involved in that are going to make even more people come and make, you know, I've often said that we can't afford to make ourselves famous. We have to be around famous people, and we're going to do that with kart.
So here's the Canadian story in terms of overall points. Tagliani at 51 stands 9th. Patrick Carpentier at 88 stands 4th. And the leader, Paul Tracy, first at 139. And even though he has 139, you know he wanted that point back that he lost yesterday with that big protest. We're going to continue on with more from Concord Pacific Place, qualifying for the Molson Indy Vancouver across the CanWest Global Television Network.
The Molson Indy Toronto on Global is brought to you in part by your Dodge retailers. Dodge Trucks, the most powerful line of trucks on the road. Dodge, grab life by the horns.
The province of British Columbia provides ample opportunities for outdoor adventures everywhere. You're never far from nature, even in the city. Along the shores of Falls Creek, the site of the Molson Indy Vancouver, kayaking, canoeing, sailing, and even sea-doing are a regular sight. Within minutes from anywhere in Vancouver, you can hike, bike, canoe, or simply relax in one of the many beautiful parks. Take a short drive out of the city, and the choices for outdoor activity are endless. Since 2002 winner Dario Franchitti jumped to the IRL, this race does not have its defending champion in the field. But if you recall, it was Paul Tracy who led the most laps last year with 45 before giving the lead back to Franchitti on the final lap to give his former teammate the win. They were joined on the podium by Tony Kanaan. Other previous winners at this race include Al Unser Jr. He won the first Indy, in fact, 4 of the first 6. But he never started from the pole. Franchitti is one of 3 multiple winners. Paul Tracy, of course, becoming the first Canadian to win in 2000. Now we get back to qualifying with 10 minutes left, where Paul Tracy still on P1. Let's join Chris McClure and Mamo Gidley.
Patrick Carpentier trying to get into a hot lap as laps were running out for him. Misses turn 11 and smacks the inside wall after turning around, and that will bring out the local yellow. We'll wait and see what happens at the main flag stand. Yes, indeed, they have gone to a red flag situation with 9 minutes left to go in this qualifying. Now, everybody has gotten the required 25 minutes of green flag time. Let's take a look at it. Missed the tires, hit the right rear. It's flat. He goes across the road and breaks that suspension again.
Yeah, that's the same area that he had problems before, and you know, I don't know, it was hard to see whether he got it to the curbs a little bit too hot and was a little bit wide and got out in the gray. That's what I'm assuming. And then the back end stepped around, he spun it to the inside and clipped the inside wall.
So Patrick Carpentier moving around in the cockpit. It appears to be just fine, but the car will require repair, and we are under a red flag at Vancouver in the second qualifying session. To reiterate, we have gotten the 25 required minutes of green flag qualifying activity. There is 8:12 to go in this qualifying session, but that could expire under the red flag, and everything would be as it now stands, with Tracy on pole, Junqueira on the outside of the front row, then Moreno, who was out there warming up his second set of tires to try and get the pole back, having had that taken away from him, at least for the moment, then Jourdain and Bourdais and Carpentier in the front 3 rows. That's where we stand. Can they clean it up and get back to green in time for Moreno and Jourdain and Junqueira to take a crack at Tracy? We don't know, but we'll find out very shortly. Once again, from on board, Patrick Carpentier, wide, bingo, contact.
And just a reminder, our pre-race coverage begins tomorrow, 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, and in just under a month, we're going to be in. We also have green flag coverage tomorrow for you. Of course, the race is at 1:06 Pacific. Here's Montreal. We're going to be there in just under a month on August the 23rd. Qualifying coverage once again, 7 p.m. And of course, green flag coverage the following day, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have our final segment of qualifying from Vancouver coming up after this break. We'll find out if Paul Tracy can retain P1 for tomorrow's race when we come back on Global.
The Molson Indy Vancouver on Global is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. Why not seize the day?
If you've got a minute, I'd like to take you on a guided tour of a directional control device. Your daddy might have called it a steering wheel. This is what Alex Tagliani uses in his race car on race day. Let's start at the top and work our way around. This is where the digital readouts are from the engine compartment most primarily. Back here, you can set the pit speed, and then you turn off the pit speed when you leave it. Radio transmission right here. Drink button if you're a little bit thirsty. This oil button, the driver doesn't use much. It's part of the system the crew uses to check oil in the engine. Down here, pit stop, reset the fuel. You know how much is on board when you leave and toward the end of the run. Boost up or down in the turbocharger. This changes the page or the computer readout up above. These weight jacker adjustments are only in play on oval races. Back here, it says fuel plus. What it really is torque plus for gears 1, 2, and 3. Down below, you have fuel minus, which is really torque minus for gears 1, 2, and 3. And then you have what's called the differential button. This is a dummy toggle switch to confuse nosy drivers from other teams. And this year, it has worked. Thus, you have had your tour of the modern directional control device.
Well, the recent trend has been great for Canadians at the Molson Indy Vancouver. You remember that in 2001, it was Tagliani 1 and 2 with Carpentier on the starting grid. And Paul Tracy has been a factor starting second 2002 and again in 2000. And of course, he won in 2000. So will he continue that trend? He's standing first. He has P1 with 4 minutes left. Let's rejoin Chris and Memo Gidley.
Well, they got it cleaned up in record time, and the contenders are storming onto the course with 4 minutes to go in the qualifying. They'll need some time to get the heat in the tires. The man with a little advantage in that regard is Roberto Moreno, because he was already out when Carpentier hit the wall. Junqueira, Jourdain, and Bourdais are out there now on fresh tires, and really they have a little stiffer task in terms of getting everything ready to go for a flyer, and time is working against them.
Yeah, Bruno actually raced Michel out of the pits there so that he could get a good spot on the track, and it looks like he may have a decently clear spot.
We'll wait and see as they come around this first outlap for all of them. Michel Jourdain there, then Bruno Junqueira working in front of the Science Center.
Michel is actually slowing down a little bit right now. I think he's trying to get a gap here, which is going to make Bruno a little mad because Bruno's now right on his tail.
So onto the straightaway, and they begin to pick up the throttle. Michel Jourdain leads the charge into turn number 1. Now they're on the clocks. They concluded their outlap and they're on the clocks, and it's very unlikely that their splits will indicate any kind of super lap underway. Not just yet. Maybe the next time around.
Yeah, see, what Michel was doing there is you don't want to get around the outlap too quickly, because then you're actually still catching up to guys coming out of the pits. So he slowed down, and what happened is Bruno caught up to him, and so Bruno's lap is going to be destroyed, and Michel, you know, really didn't spend the time to get his heat in his tires, so he's not going to have a very fast lap now.
Now, all of these guys out there, Junqueira, Moreno, Jourdain, and Bourdais, are racing against each other because they have 2nd through 5th on the grid, but they're also racing against Tracy in terms of the pole position, and Tracy will not be out there among them. He's used up his laps, and he has the fastest of the weekend, and for the moment has the pole position. Here comes Michel. Get into a lap. We'll give you the time on that one. He's currently 4th overall. That's a 63.5. Now we start to watch the splits and see if this lap has any promise with 2 minutes to go. A couple of laps is all they're going to get on these fresh tires to see if they can steal it away. There's Bourdais going into turn 3. his last lap, 65.4, as he warms things up.
You could see Bourdais there slide a little bit wide heading onto the back straightaway, so he's really hasn't gotten his tires up to temperature yet, but it's critical that you push as hard as possible because you only got a couple minutes left and you got to get everything up to temp and working to get the grip to be fast.
Nobody in this group has outdone Tracy's pole lap in terms of segment time. Most of them are 0.3 to a half a second behind that lap. So this isn't going to be the lap by all indication as they come back around, and we're down to 1:11 to go in the session. Maybe a couple of more laps for Bourdais and Michel. We'll see what happens when they get to the line. Will they beat the checkered flag? It'll be out the next time they come by. Go on board with Bourdais into the corner. Sweeping through turn 2, now the left-hander a little off camber. He's quicker through that segment by a couple of hundredths. So at least he's on pace with Tracy through 4. Little correction there, and now high speed to the other end.
That turn 5 section that he just went through is so fast. It's you know, just about 5th gear, I believe, and really bumpy and technical and narrow.
Now he falls behind the pace of Tracy. No one else is running segments faster than Tracy's pole lap. Bourdais opened this lap with a good start, but the second segment betrayed him a little bit. We'll wait to see as he gets through in the Science Center in the chicane. Coming back to the end, 7 seconds before the checker. He may get there ahead of the checker flag and get one more lap. Doesn't look like it now. He's going to see the checkered flag when he gets there. So it's still Tracy, Junqueira, Moreno, Jourdain, Bourdais. That's what we have at the top 5. Carpentier seems to be locked in 6th grid spot. His limping car has been taken to the paddock. Checkered flag is out for everyone passing under the flag stand, and it would appear that everybody is slowing down. There's Darren Manning. His qualifying is done. He will be in the 8th grid spot. That's a nice qualifying for him in the Renard. Here comes Moreno to conclude a lap. Indications are it won't quite be enough, but he has an opportunity to chase down Tracy. He's through the lights. 62.1, not good enough. He stays 3rd. One of the Dale Coyne cars passes through. The checkered is out. Everybody's slowing down. Paul Tracy at 60.926 seconds has pole in Vancouver.
Paul Tracy, 2 for 2 in these Canadian races. Now it must feel awfully good after yesterday.
No, it definitely feels great. We went out early to do the time. We didn't want to have anybody complaining that I did this or I did that, so we set the mark early and sat and waited to see if anybody could beat it. So, you know, we team players, we do our talking on the track, not to the officials.
Special feeling receiving the Greg Moore Award here in Vancouver as well, I know.
For sure. I mean, it's a great award. It's the 2nd week in a row for me, and tremendous that Greg's brother and sister were here, and I couldn't be happier.
Congratulations, Paul. Good luck tomorrow. To Don Martin.
Thanks, Todd. Bruno Junqueira once again 1-2 with Paul Tracy. Did you get the lap in that you wanted, or were you just about to?
Yeah, just about to. Unfortunately, there was a red flag in the end, and you didn't get enough laps of what you need. But anyway, that's the way it goes, and the race is 100 laps for everybody.
You'll be eye to eye with Mr. Tracy again tomorrow. Can the hard feelings be set aside on race day?
Yeah, I don't have any hard feelings. I mean, we are friends, and I respect him. He's a very good driver, and let's see if he can put a good show tomorrow.
And everything was fair and square today?
Yes, fair and square.
All right, Bruno Junqueira, Paul Tracy, 2 and 1 in the front row tomorrow. Jim, please, whatever you do, don't ask me who's going to crack tomorrow.
All right, 2 points at stake in the qualifying, and yes, Paul and Bruno did make their point, although Paul Tracy was good enough for 2, but you see the gap is the same. That's the bottom line. 15 points between both drivers as they battle on to see who's going to be the best. There's Paul Tracy's reaction in the pit area, his team, and he very happy about things. There's a presentation of the Greg Moore Trophy by Greg's brother and sister, James and Annie, and it doesn't get any better than that. We'll be back right after this.
Closed captioning of the Molson Indy Vancouver on Global is brought to you in part by Shell Optimax Gold. Optimum responsiveness just when you need it.
All right, with the qualifying finished, here's where the Canadians stand. Paul Tracy, P1. And look at that time. It's real close to the track record. Patrick Carpentier will be 6th. Alex Tagliani 7th. So it's 1, 6, and 7. It was 1, 4, and 5 in Toronto. There are still possibilities.
Over 51,000 fans watch Paul Tracy grab his 2nd straight pole, but can he make it back-to-back wins? Well, let's see where his toughest competitors line up. Let's join Chris and Memo.
Well, I don't think anybody is really surprised at the result in terms of pole with Paul Tracy involved, Memo, but it was an important moment for him today.
Yeah, for sure. With all the controversy that's going on out there and pointing fingers, and, you know, that can disrupt a flow, a driver's flow or a team's flow. So he had to get it done today. 4
poles this year, 17 in the career with Junqueira for the 2nd race in a row outside of him as they go to the green flag. In the 2nd row, bit of a surprise, but a guy who knows this course and has won here, Roberto Moreno. Big moment for him, really.
Boy, the story of the weekend, I'd say, you know, especially 1 set of tires, 1 run. He still had laps left at the end to get a fast lap.
Carpentier lost his best time, but still remained in 6th on the grid. He's got to look at the front. He can go racing.
Yeah, Carpentier, you know, he's got a good car. He knows Tracy's up there. He's just got to work away with it and see how it ends up at the end.
Tagliani in the next row with Darren Manning, the top Renard in the field. We look a little further. Oriol Servia and Mario Haberfeld. He needs a good result. Does Servia to get some points, much needed points. Thiago Montero and Mario Dominguez. Dominguez so close to Germany not so long ago, but now struggling just a little bit. And then a couple of veterans, Vassar and Adrian Fernandez, just behind them. Max Pappas and Ryan Hunter-Ray there. All of these fellows know their way around the course, but they've got a long way to go to the front.
Yeah, Fernandez, I think, is sitting in a pretty good seat. He's got a good car out there, just had a bad luck in qualifying and bad timing. And Vassar, he sat out the session a lot. He could come out and be pretty consistent in the race.
So there they are, 19 runners and riders ready to go. Jim, Laurie?
Thanks very much. So, Laurie, eerily similar, totally different conditions, but Paul Tracy again has the best car on the track.
And it seemed like they were trying to get under his skin today, and it just didn't work.
No, it wasn't going to happen. He basically said as much at the start of the day that he was going to let his driving do the talking. His team was focused, and he certainly set the tone.
And another incredible chance for him to get another Canadian victory in front of what's been a record crowd so far this weekend, so we can't wait for tomorrow.
No, we can't. He won the Greg Moore Trophy for the 2nd weekend in a row, and of course it means much more here because this is where Greg Moore's family is from. We'll set up the pre-race coverage for you tomorrow, 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 for those of you in the east. Green flag coverage, 106 in the west, 406 in the east, live right across the CanWest Global Television Network. It was an interesting week. Paul Tracy tried on Friday, came up a little short thanks to a protest. He had the best car. Patrick Carpentier struggled all weekend. Paul Tracy has P1. Will he win the race again? Tune in tomorrow to find out.
That the 21st Olympic Winter Games in 2010 are awarded to the city of Vancouver.
It's been an up and down and up kind of weekend for Scarborough's Paul Tracy. He was fastest Friday, good enough for the front row, but the congrats came a bit early. Tracy blamed for a block and bumped from his spot at the front, a move that didn't exactly build bridges between he and Chris Pook. Tracy regrouped Saturday carrying the mantra, talk is cheap, and he'd heard enough. And he said he'd send his message on the track. What his competitors heard was, see you later, I'll be starting from the pole. It's 2 poles and 2 races now for Paul Tracy. A 2nd win in Canada would taste, oh, so sweet. The Molson Indy Vancouver, presented by the CanWest Global Television Network.
Champ Car Series leader Paul Tracy ready to walk the walk in Vancouver, looking to make it 2 in a row, while fellow countrymen Patrick Carpentier and Alex Tagliani still looking to sip their first champagne in Vancouver. Meanwhile, Bruno Junqueira, Tracy's closest competitor in the championship race, but he's still without a victory this season. His teammate, the runaway Rookie of the Year, Sebastian Bourdais, has surprised many this season. Will he do it today. And Michel Jourdain Jr. was the bridesmaid in Toronto 2 weeks ago, so perhaps today he'll get hitched. Paul Tracy maintaining his 15-point lead following qualifying, but there are lots of races left this season for Jourdain or Junqueira to make a move. They'll be watching and waiting in anticipation today in Vancouver. After all the pre-race hype, the trash talking, and the jockeying for position, they're ready to race in a city that's still flying high after winning the 2010 Olympic Games to be held in Vancouver and in Whistler.
And oh, did we mention perfect racing conditions at Concord Pacific Place? Look at that, 24 degrees, slight wind, sunny conditions, and this is the way it's been all weekend long. Hello, everybody. Jim Taddy along with Laurie Boulanger. Welcome to our live coverage from the Molson Indy Vancouver across the global television network from coast to coast as we set the stage for the race and give you live coverage of this event as well. And we're many miles and 2 weeks removed from Toronto, but the storyline is unaltered, Laurie.
It was, and through qualifying, there was as much excitement and anticipation as there are during some of the races. Friday, in qualifying, the slower traffic took to the track first. Then about a third of the way through, 2001 winner here, Roberto Moreno, grabbed the provisional pole. That held on until Diego Montero crashed, causing a red flag and lost time. So with just over 8 minutes left, just about every driver out on the track trying to get a fast lap. It was Paul Tracy fastest, taking the provisional pole, but it wouldn't hold up. Later that night, complaints by Alex Tagliani and Bruno Junqueira accusing Tracy of blocking gave Bruno Junqueira P1. Of course, that set up some interesting scenarios for Saturday, not only because of the controversy, but also because of this man, 44-year-old Roberto Moreno, continuing to surprise with his speed all weekend long, until Tracy, who said he was trying to get out early so as not to block anyone this time around, he was able to get a clear track and notch the fastest lap. Then his teammate Patrick Carpentier gave him a little help, causing a red flag, and after that, no one could find a clear track or the time to catch Tracy. He earned his second straight podium. With Junqueira running in second and Moreno in third, and an interesting trend developing in Vancouver. In the last 4 years, a Canadian has been on the front row, but only one victory, which was Paul Tracy.
So again, with the Tracy memories, I mean, he hits the racetrack here on all kinds of a high because he has P1, but let's consider what he did exactly 2 weeks ago in Toronto. Right from the green flag, it was his race to lose. Where is everybody? A 35-second lead at one point. In fact, a late yellow flag only made it close, and he got frustrated with the pace car because he wanted to pit. You know Paul, he eventually got his way, eventually won in a breeze, 10 years removed from his first Molson Indy Toronto victory, and he was pretty happy about that. The story this year in the Champ Car circuit is a battle between two teams. It'll be Players Foresight against Newman Haas, and there are the stats. As far as Newman Haas is concerned, they have that outstanding rookie Sebastian Bourdais, still learning the circuit but drives like a veteran. He will start fifth today. So far this year, the rookie in 10 starts, 3 wins, 4 poles, and 3 podiums. It'll be very interesting to see how he handles this Molson Indy Vancouver track. He had the pole and the victory in Cleveland the week before Toronto. Let's go down to the Paul Tracy pit area with Todd Lewis.
Well, in Paul Tracy's pit, the frustration had been building all weekend long. So much so that before the Saturday qualifying session, he shows up wearing one of these, a surgical mask, complaining of a new disease sweeping the cart paddock. Junqueira and Tagliani, both suffering from Weiner-itis. So Paul Tracy said he was doing his talking on the track, did reclaim the pole position for today's race. He picked off the quick time for the second straight day. This one he gets to keep. He's won here once in Vancouver. He'd like to win here again this year. Further up pit lane, Don Martin.
Thank you, Todd. And Bruno Junqueira said after that blocking incident Friday, he was so upset at Paul Tracy, he would have taken a swing at him had he been close enough. But today he says all personal feelings are set aside. Business is business. He still respects Tracy and is hard racing to the end. Now, Junqueira has been Tracy's whipping boy on the track as well, although Junqueira has been amazingly consistent. He's had 5 top 6. Actually, he's been on the podium 6 times and has been in the top 5 9 times this season, second in the point standings. But he desperately needs a checkered flag. No one in this series has ever won the Drivers' Championship without a win. And today he'll have to get it done on a track where he's finished no better than 9th. Laurie?
Thanks, John. Joining our broadcast team this year, someone who's no stranger to this track, driver Mamo Gidley started racing in '92 and competed most recently here in 2001 when he raced 13 of that season's 20 races for Target Chip Ganassi. He finished with 3 podiums, 2 seconds and 1/3. Now from the track to the booth, he joins Chris McClure, and we're so happy to have him on our broadcast team.
Thank you very much, Laurie. You know, Tracy rooting interests here are most specifically concerned about his chances for victory today, but the underlying theme is that championship. Paul came to Vancouver with 139 points, averaging 13.9 points per race. History tells us that that ought to be sufficient if it holds up the rest of the year. Nobody who's scored 13 points in a kart season has failed to win the championship. Never. And if Tracy had done better in 3 of the races already this year, he might have broken this championship wide open already. How does that compare historically? Well, look at the average for Zanardi in '98. His great year, 15 points per race. Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, and Al Jr. again, all at 13 or 14. Paul is in select company and could be on his way to a title if he can sustain that for the next couple of months. But today he's got problems to deal with this racetrack. They all do, Memo. What are the keys to success here?
Well, for sure, turn 1 is the top of the list. It starts off 60 feet wide, narrows down to about 25. So if you're going to be on the outside there, you're definitely going to be banging some wheels. Next on the list is going to be cold tire restarts. It's critical that you have a car that works good on cold tires so that you're able to make up some positions or at least hold the position that you have right then. Gearbox reliability, it's very bumpy out there. It's very hard on the drivetrain. Also, brushing up against the walls is very damaging to the car, so making sure you're consistent and the car lasts is going to be important. Track position is key on a street course for sure. You know, it's hard to pass out there. This track is no different, so starting ahead or making some positions and holding your ground is going to keep you up front there. Turn 5 is very fast, very bumpy. We've seen a lot of crashes in years past in that turn, so especially towards the end of the race, keeping your concentration up is going to be important there.
100 laps is what it's scheduled for. It will be fast and furious and always interesting here, Jim.
Thanks very much, Chris. A live shot of Bruno Junqueira loosening up. Will he answer the bell? Will he be able to slip by Paul Tracy today? Live shot and a camera mounted, a pencil camera on top of the fuel tank in Darren Manning's pit. How important are the pit crews? Well, let's consider this from Chris McClure with a Kart 101.
The importance of pit stops is reinforced virtually every time a Champ car comes onto pit road for service. You simply cannot afford to have a bad stop. To wit, Paul Tracy at Milwaukee, where he lost valuable points, perhaps the win when the tire fell off right after a pit stop. Or at Cleveland, where he yielded the lead late in the race while in the pits. The effort of the teams to improve and perfect their pit stops is Herculean. When they're at the shops, they close every workday with pit stop practice. At the track, they'll schedule a couple of practices right here on pit road. And during the races, the effort continues. Virtually every team these days will mount a camera on their pit tank and film every pit stop they make. They take the film back, they analyze it, they check the choreography, all in the effort to perfect the exercise. Pit stops can and do win or lose races. Pit stops can and do win and lose championships. The bottom line is, any one pit stop within the framework of a Champ Car season could be worth $1 million or more.
The Molson Indy Toronto on Global is brought to you in part by your Dodge retailers. Dodge Trucks, the most powerful line of trucks on the road. Dodge, grab life by the horns.
Welcome to the Molson Indy Vancouver! The arrival of the Molson Indy in Vancouver brings a variety of events leading up to race day. The first of these being Thursday night's gala dinner in support of the Greg Moore Foundation.
What I have is it's a bid book commemorating, of course, our win, our victory for 2010, and it's signed by all the key players from the bid.
Every time I come here, I'm really, really excited, not only just about the race, but about the way you guys go about this event. It's something that is in this city, belongs to the city, and makes people like us driver really proud of coming over here every year.
Friday afternoon's qualifying session concluded with all the drivers conducting a mass autograph session for race fans in the track's paddock area.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, man.
And Friday evening concluded with Paul Tracy hosting his annual drivers VIP party at the city's Commodore Ballroom.
This is a live shot of Alex Tagliani getting set to enter his car. A Canadian wanting to make his mark in a Canadian race, now driving for Rocket Sports. Remember, 2 years ago, he had the pole here. Looked like he was on his way to victory. Lap 68, gearbox trouble the end of the day for him. He's had an interesting weekend. Part of the protest that took the provisional pole and the point away from Paul Tracy on Friday. 2 weekends ago in Toronto, looked like he was going to finish second, wiped out in turn 3 on lap 28. Now, let's meet a very honest and frank Alex Tagliani.
I want to take this opportunity to officially welcome Paul to Team Players.
It was kind of like a very brutal feel that I have. Like, it happened like very suddenly. I didn't see it coming. Because, you know, I knew like they were going to sign Paul, and I kept asking, you know, what do I have to do? You know, I'm under contract with you and for next year, and you guys have an option on me for 2004. So, you know, right now you're set, everything is good. You're going to race next year for us. So, all right. And then I get to Miami, and it was like 2 races before the end of the season, and they tell me you have to look for another ride. You know, I mean, it's just terrible because at that time, all the other team owners, you know, they knew I was settled for the next year. So then I have to go back and ask them for a ride and then explain with the situation. It's difficult to explain the way I felt because I'm the guy that respects the difference of opinions. And to me, what players did was a different opinion than the one I had for myself. And that's okay. I accept that. Where I had a problem was how they worked the last 4 months or 5 months of my partnership with them. That is what I had a problem with it, because it could have hurt my career really bad if I would have stopped right there. And it looks to me that, you know, they didn't want to put the effort, you know, for me to get into a very competitive team. I kind of understand that also, because if I would have kicked their butt every race weekend, you know, it would have probably be very bad.
Tagliani, these guys are having, Johnson Controls, they're having a great run as a new team.
Because since I started with this team, I mean, it's like totally different atmosphere and energy around me. I don't know why, but it's I'm part of something, and I get the recognition of being thrown in something very new and being able to do it, and the reward for everyone in the team is so more, you know, like bigger. And I definitely, you know, the only thing I'm living right now for is to be able to win or to do good result for this team and building something for next year. And next year we're gonna hammer it down. I wanted more than any other year. I mean, this year I've been working really hard with the engineers. I've been working very closely with them on the car setup. I'm there for a long time. I don't want to leave next year. I don't want to go with another team now. And this is going to go somewhere. We have the potential in this team with all the team members and to win.
Alex Tagliani starting 7th. There's Patrick Carpentier. Live shot as he gets set. He will start in the 6th position. 19 minutes to the green flag, and away we go. There's Darren Manning, one of the 8 rookies in the field. Watch for him. He had an interesting run yesterday and may make some noise. Yes, everybody's set to go, and we'll be back to do that shortly.
It's no secret that the popularity of golf is on the rise, and there is perhaps no nicer place to golf than in British Columbia. Boasting signature courses designed by world-renowned golf architects such as Nicklaus, Palmer, Trent Jones Jr., and Tom McBroom, British Columbia Golf courses are set against a backdrop of breathtaking natural landscapes. The mild climate means that golfers are able to take to the course year-round and enjoy some of North America's premier golf destinations.
Closed captioning of the Molson Indy Vancouver on Global is brought to you in part by Shell Optimax Gold. Optimum responsiveness just when you need it.
Welcome back to Vancouver, and as we're set to start the Vancouver Molson Indy, a reminder, less than a month from now, it'll be time for the Molson Indy Montreal qualifying coverage. Saturday, August 23rd at 7 Eastern Time. Green flag coverage, of course, the next day at 12:30 Eastern Time, live from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We look forward to that. Things are calm out in Falls Creek as we get set for this year's Molson Indy Vancouver, and the excitement and anticipation starting to build. We are 17 minutes to the green flag, and the four most famous words in auto racing about to be uttered. We've got to regroup. We'll take a break and come back live on the CanWest Global Television Network.
The Molson Indy Vancouver on Global is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. Why not seize the day?
Was Further Again by Staggered Crossing off their self-titled album. Check out the new album Last Summer, When We Were Famous, available in stores across the country. Well, the scene setting is just about done. 10 minutes to green flag. Now let's go to Global Vancouver. Zach Spencer. Zach?
Thanks and welcome to everybody across Canada on the Global Television Network. Vancouver wants to say a big hello to you with a cheer from the grandstands here in Vancouver. My name is Zach Spencer from Global British Columbia, and we are here to introduce the Molson Indy Vancouver, the 14th annual event here on the West Coast, and a beautiful day in Vancouver with warm temperatures and blue sky. Right now, we'd like to introduce you to the president of Molson Canada, Ontario and Western Region, Mr. Michael Downey.
Good afternoon, Vancouver, and welcome race fans from across Canada, North America, and around the world. On behalf of all of us at Molson and Molson Canadian, Canada's leading beer, I am thrilled that you have joined us today for the 14th running of the Molson Indy Vancouver. The Molson Indy Vancouver has earned the reputation as the racer's favorite with its spectacular waterfront race course. We have a great team supporting this race, and our thanks go to the staff and council at the City of Vancouver, including Mayor Larry Campbell. Special recognition must also go to the thousands of race volunteers that make this a marquee event. I would also like to recognize the efforts of Molson Sports and Entertainment, led by Joanne MacArthur and Bob Singleton. Not only has this group once again put on a spectacular Molson Indy Vancouver, but they are also organizing a small concert in Toronto for next Wednesday for 500,000 people. Thanks as well to all the teams and drivers. In addition to the great driving you will see today, their participation in the Molson Indy Festival events over the years has resulted in well over $1 million raised for local charities under the leadership of Chairman Jess Ketchum. Before last year's Molson Indy, I spoke of the Olympic Challenge to bring the 2010 Winter Games to Canada. 1 year later, I am thrilled to say congratulations, Vancouver. Producing a winning bid is a matter of national pride, and it is with great pride that Molson invested over $2 million and lent its marketing expertise to help produce a winning bid for this great city of Vancouver. We would also like to recognize the hard work of individuals such as Jack Poole, John Furlong, and the entire 2010 bid team, Premier Gordon Campbell and Minister Teb Nibbling, and the entire government of British Columbia. Along with all Canadians, we look forward to welcoming the world to Canada in 2010. Now back to the race at hand. Cheers and best wishes for a safe and most exciting Molson Indy Vancouver. Thank you, Vancouver.
President of Molson Canada, Michael Downey, thank you very much, and on behalf of all the fans here, thank you to Molson. We want to bring up our special guest here from White Rock, Jason Cooley, a Seafox Command Contest winner, and he gets the honors of saying the 4 most famous words in racing. And next to him, a guy you might not recognize out of uniform, Brendan Morrison, number 7. Let's hear for Brendan. Now we're getting very close. They get to say the magic words to get this race going. Everybody, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gentlemen, start your engines!